I was this close to making a video calling out a lot of you Christians and conservatives, and I was mad. And the reason I was mad is because I was thinking of just how pathetic it is that it took the former Bud Light patrons to show us how to stand up to a company, a corporation, and say, no, the things you're doing and supporting, that behavior is unacceptable to us. It took the beer drinkers to show us how to do that, how to say no. That's sad. I mean, that is pathetic. And I was hot, and I'd actually started on the video. And while I was thinking about that and working out the details, I was also working on a woodworking project, part of a drawer here that I'm making from a cabinet behind me. And I put in all the work on this board and had it perfect, had it just flat and parallel and sides straight and everything square. And I started cutting my dovetails. And I made the biggest rookie mistake there is in woodworking. I cut out the wrong section of my dovetails. This board's a piece of scrap now. All right, well, there wasn't anything I could do except for just scrap this piece and start over. And I did. I got this one right. And then that got me thinking about personal responsibility. I couldn't exactly blame this on anybody else. And once I got on that personal responsibility kick, that got me to thinking about, as pathetic as it is right now for us Christians and conservatives not being able to stand up and say no, I bear some of that responsibility. We all do. Every one of us. All right, so just like I redid this board, I'm redoing this video. Unfortunately, I'm not smart enough to get into all of the problems facing churches right now. And synagogues, conservatism, classic liberalism at this point, they're all in trouble. But I think there's a few things we can identify as the biggest issues and start working to fix that. And we need to start working quickly. And the first thing I'm going to say is just a complete and utter lack of leadership. Now, there's some individuals doing some really good things out there. I'm thinking of Jordan Peterson. I wouldn't classify him as conservative or traditional Christian, but he recognizes the importance of conservatism in our classic, traditional Judeo-Christian values. And he's doing a lot of good things, and I think helping a lot of people. Okay, and then there's Thomas Sowell's done a lot of good things and still is as far as social and economic conservatism. In the media, there's people like Tucker Carlson, Ben Shapiro that are doing some good things. But those are just individuals. Okay, where are our institutions at this point? Our churches. Our churches quit being socially relevant 20 years ago. Now, I know a lot of you that have spent your entire life in church. You might not have appreciated that remark, but I think it's true. And if you hadn't woke up and realized that yet, it's just because you've been in church your whole life. All right, step outside of that for just a moment and you'll realize just how irrelevant our churches have become. Okay, and right now, the West has been infected with just an absolutely horrible ideology. We call it being woke or wokeism or whatever, but what it is it's a new twist on Marxism, neo-Marxism. Okay, and a lot of church leaders have invited that ideology into their churches. And as a result of a lot of our churches are becoming irrelevant to Christians at the moment. That's how bad it is right now. Okay, the Republican Party, traditional home for most conservatives. Except for I'm looking at so many Republican politicians and they're not conservatives. They're corporate shills. I mean, there's some exceptions there, but I'm not seeing many. Education. Yeah, that was funny, wasn't it? The Marxists took over education a long time ago, our public schools, universities, and colleges. All right, our institutes of education, especially higher education, but all of it, public too, those are for the Marxists to preach their ideology and come up with new converts. Okay, so indoctrination centers, that's what they are now. All right, there's some exceptions. It's not many. All right, so all of our institutions are in trouble right now. Even our government's starting to not function, which that's what Marxists do. It's an anti-God, anti-Christian, anti-Christ ideology, and they break stuff. That's their goal. Tear stuff up and gain power for themselves, and that's it. They have no morals, they have no values, they don't care. Get power. All right, so I think we've got to start two fronts. We've got to start on the religious front as far as for Christianity and even Orthodox Jews, but in the U.S. at least there's just so many more Christians. That's predominantly what we are. On the political side, conservatism. And I think we've got to start with saving our churches, because without our traditional Judeo-Christian values, there is no conservatism. There's nothing to save. We lose our religion, then we lose the concept of natural rights. Without natural rights, what is there for Western democracies? In the U.S., that's our Bill of Rights, gone right there. That's the Declaration of Independence, gone right there. The whole concept of our government, limited government, gone. Okay, and I would say for England, the Commonwealth nations, Great Britain, what's that do for your concept of common law once you lose the religious side? Okay, so without the religious, there's nothing left but worshiping the government, which is exactly what Marxists do. All right, so we got to start by saving the churches and our religion. So how do we save the churches? I know a lot of you have been struggling with that question for a long time. That is a tough one. And I'm just going to spitball some ideas here and just see what sticks. All right. First thing I'm thinking, it sure would be good if we had an organization that got members from different churches together on a local level in a community, in a town, a county, and from all the different denominations, Protestant and Catholic, even Orthodox Jews from synagogues, if there are any in your communities. Okay, and us Christians, we're all brothers and sisters in Christ, no matter what your denomination is. And Orthodox Jews, they're our first cousins. They have a lot to offer also. Okay, so I'm thinking an organization where people from various churches could get together and communicate with each other. I think that could be just useful on so many levels. See what's working at different churches. And, okay, now, such an organization. Now, think of the influence it could have politically on a local level. All right, that could be very helpful. When all the churches were getting locked down, even after we found out that the reaction to COVID was just completely overblown, okay, and lockdowns were still in effect. Okay, how useful would it have been to have such an organization on a local level? Would the local authorities have been as quick to say, you can't meet, your congregation cannot meet in church, we're not going to let you? Again, once we found out that the reaction was completely overblown and that the lockdowns were not necessary. Okay, that could have been really useful. Okay, right now, Great Britain, you can go to jail right now for reciting certain passages from the Bible, hate speech. And there's places going that direction quickly here in the U.S. How quick would local authorities be to arrest somebody for, quote, hate speech if you had such a organization locally? How much influence could that have politically on a local level if all of the denominations had come together? Okay, now, picture that on a local level. Now let's multiply that over different counties, over a state, put together a loose, small state organization. Okay, that could be pretty influential. Now let's do that over the nation. Okay, That could be helpful on a national level. Do it in multiple countries. Now we're talking international, and that's pretty good there too, because the adversary we're all ultimately fighting, we're fighting on an international level because he doesn't care about national boundaries. Never has. And it's the same one us Christians have always been fighting against. So I can see that being beneficial right there. And I see this, I picture this being a men's organization. And so I'm not against women or women's rights. Churches have lost the men. Most of them. We got to get them back into churches. And the young men have got to learn how to be leaders. I could see such an organization being very useful for that. Okay, now, another idea. Sunday schools. I think it's time to change the curriculum for that. And this, again, it's just me spitballing ideas. I'd love to hear some thoughts, but they don't teach history anymore. All right, they're teaching an ideology, and they're picking and choosing whatever they want that promotes their ideology. What if we actually taught history in Sunday schools, Christian history, and the truth, the good and the bad? Okay, because one of the most popular phrases is, more people have died in the name of religion than anything. Young people hear that and they believe it. But the truth is, more people have died in the name of communism than anything. Communism in the 20th century killed more people than the Black Plague. Christians are absolute rank amateurs compared to the communists as far as killing people. And if we're going to have people in the churches that are going to grow up to be responsible leaders, I think they need to know where churches have gone wrong in the past. We need to learn from them. And where they went wrong in the past wasn't from the Bible, it wasn't from Christianity. It was when they quit following the Bible. It's when they started implementing their own ideas. Okay, we all need to learn from that. Okay, so I think those two things right there could be useful. I think that changing our curriculum to make it more intellectually interesting and challenging, deeper, could be very useful. Teach the history of our churches. How did they get to where they are? Because they didn't just happen. It took 2,000 years for them to get here to where we are today. We need to teach that history to our young people. If they don't know the history, then they're not going to be able to imagine the future. Okay, and then an organizational, cross-denominational organization that could also provide some pushback against churches. With the more hierarchical churches that have a large structure to them, there's advantages to that. There's also some disadvantages, and when the leadership at the top loses the plot and they go off the rails, it'd be nice to have an organization that could provide some pushback against that. And I think that could be really helpful for a lot of individuals and individual local churches. Right? Think of it as checks and balances. Okay, so anyway, that's just the ideas I'm spitballing there. On the political side, well, we'll talk about that next time. If any of you have any ideas, comment below, because this is a problem we're all facing, and it's something we got to figure this out. I don't see no way around that. God bless, and I'm going to get back to work now. Y'all have a great day.